This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is May 26th, 2025. Wishing you all a good Memorial Day. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, what's going on?
Hey, man, not a whole lot. Just hanging out. Obviously, Memorial Day, a nice day for a lot of us to have the day off, but never want to take this day for granted as we remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms for our country. And so if we by any chance happen to have any listeners or viewers who have lost a loved one who served in the battlefield for our country, our thoughts are with you today. Obviously, we stand with you, remembering
Absolutely
those people that have given their lives for us so we can be free. Never want to let that pass us by without recognizing or remembering. But anyway, yeah, doing well, enjoying this weekend. Nice little holiday weekend. What about you?
Sure is. Yeah, pretty much it. We're recording this Sunday night as we always do. So I'll nice early round of golf, and then we'll be at the pool with the kids probably the entire day. We joined the association or membership or whatever it is here in our neighborhood. So now we can go hang out at the community pool. So I'm sure it'll be absolutely packed tomorrow. Going to get a little round of golf in, nice, hopefully quick 18. Grab some pub subs on the way home and head to the pool. Sounds like a pretty good Memorial Day. So yeah, wishing the same for everyone else. This episode is going to be kind of part 2 of like our player evaluation, like our player grades. Last episode obviously was the forwards. This episode, we're going to go ahead and do the bigs. And then Thursday's episode will be the guards. So today will kind of be a continuation of that. Before we get to that, not a ton of Magic news. Paolo Banchero has been going on a little bit of like a mini press tour here to start the offseason. Did some stuff with like the MLB broadcast with, I believe it was Jamal Crawford. It was like part of the crossover for one of the Mariners games, if I'm remembering correctly. And then it was the Today Show or Good Morning America, one of those network television, morning news shows. And then the Pivot podcast. So yeah, I think it's great helping Paolo. Obviously, I like that he's seems to be like conscientious of the fact that although he is a phenomenal basketball player, because the Magic don't really get a ton of national attention, like he kind of has to go out there and get it, which I'm not mad at all. I'm all for more people knowing who Paolo Banchero is and kind of being up to date on what's going on with the Magic. And we know that like days after the conclusion of the Magic season, he was already back in the gym. So none of us are really worried about that. But I think it's dope when he, like, the last couple of years, him being at like the F1 races in Miami and all that. Like, I like when our guy gets a little bit more national exposure in those, type of environments.
Yeah, of course. And again, it's just trying to help put this team on the map and put himself on the map. We all think he's a guy that could eventually be a household name, even more so than he is now across the entire NBA landscape. And so, yeah, these little things every once in a while, I think, can definitely help with that brand, that image. But yeah, it won't be long before people recognize his brand or his image first because of what he does on the basketball court. And I'm looking forward to that.
And then we had our guys, Jalen Suggs and Anthony Black, taking in a little Western Conference Finals, a little Game 3, T-Wolves Thunder. It was cool to see them. Obviously, Jalen's back home visiting his family in Minnesota. And Anthony Black making the trip either from Orlando or Dallas up to Minnesota to spend some time with his boy Jalen Suggs. Love a little off-season bonding, so that was cool to see too.
Yeah, that was cool. Like you said, obviously it makes a lot of sense that Jalen was there, but to see AB make the trip and hang out with Jalen and get to catch some important basketball, that's the other part of this. Like, I'm sure now, obviously it wasn't a very good game. Minnesota won by 40 or whatever it was.
Are we going to get a good game in that series?
I hope so. But like, it's pretty cool that they got to be obviously front row action and witness like intense conference final basketball. And I bet like knowing at least Jalen, obviously, we haven't really got to spend a lot of time with Anthony Black yet, but I'm sure he's the same way. Like, when you're at that level and you see like conference final basketball or finals basketball, I know you're just like drooling. Like the idea of being in that environment, I know that just they would love that. And so hopefully it's just, more fuel to the fire to bring some conference finals and finals appearances to Orlando.
It's weird that it's been like an uneventful yet very eventful like conference finals to start so far, right? Like both Indiana, OKC starting 2-0, Pacers doing it in a little bit different, more dramatic fashion. Obviously, it being on the road and the big comeback in game 2 and the overtime and all of that kind of stuff. I'm assuming you still keep tabs with some people in Indy. Like,
oh gosh,
how are those people dealing with this? And like, what was this weekend like for them? Like, Indy 500, game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, what's going on with your Indy contacts?
Yeah, I mean, first off, we're recording this in the first quarter of game 3, so who knows how that's going to end up. It's a tie game right now. But yeah, I mean, the city's just on fire, right? Like, it's just the coolest thing. And they were in the conference finals last year, but last year was very much like super underdog, just happy to be here against the Boston Celtics, But this year, especially once you win game 1, I mean, now they're like, oh my goodness, we've got a chance to do this. And obviously you win 2 games in New York. Now you're in really, really good shape. They know they'd like to get this game 3 for sure, obviously, to really kind of not quite seal the deal, but pretty much. You let New York back in it and you never know. But yeah, I mean, that place just the center of the sports universe on Sunday, and that's they're on fire. And I know at least a couple of my friends are already, let's say, budgeting money for some finals tickets. So hopefully they can finish the Knicks off this week.
Must be nice. Probably going to be a bit more affordable than like the Knicks tickets have been in MSG the last couple of rounds. Yeah, for those of you that may not know, our boy Kevin Tucker actually used to live in Indianapolis for a number of years. So
yeah,
definitely got a lot of ties and a lot of connections to that city, and has been able to do a ton of cool stuff in that town. That maybe you can talk about now, or maybe.
Well, I was just going to say it's a very underrated city, if you ask me. It's very underrated. So like, especially sports scene, like it's got a great sports scene with the Colts and the Pacers, and the Fever now are all the rage. And yeah, it's really cool. And if you're ever like, hey, I want to see a road Magic game, Indy's not a bad place. It's cheap. It's got a great environment. The building's awesome. So don't count out Indianapolis. But yeah, maybe you and I should
those
go.
Games, like if you're behind the bench, you're like on top of the bench.
Yeah,
like you're right in the mix with everything.
Yeah, it used to be even better. They just renovated it a couple years ago, and like all 4 sides were like right on top. But now they've kind of made some like special fancy luxury boxes type thing on the floor, and it's not quite the same, but it's still very cool, and the building's awesome, and it's a very walkable downtown, and so it's a cool place to be.
Yeah. All right, Kev, why don't we kind of pivot into what we have planned for this episode? And these off-season episodes, they are going to be a little bit shorter, right? Like we've got 6 months to get through. We've only got so much content and tons of time, right? Like it would be so much content, so little time, it would be nice, but it's really the opposite of that. So little content and a ton of time to fill over the course of the next few months. But let's go ahead and jump into this. Again, forwards last week. I know we're doing the guards the next episode, which that's going to be interesting.
Can I just say really fast, like the comment section was already out of pocket in the last episode, just talking about the guards. We were 2 episodes away at the time, and people were already coming with all kinds of things to say about the guards episode. But we'll get there eventually, guys.
It's going to be a good time. Anything like in your mind change, like looking back on our last grades? Would you approach anything differently? Have you changed your mind on anything?
Talking about the forwards?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I feel pretty. I mean, if looking back, maybe I overrated Tristan a little bit. I don't know, but again, I was doing it based on my preseason expectations. So
sure,
I don't know. Maybe it was still a little high, but outside of that, I feel pretty good with most of the guys. Did you have any second guesses or?
No, our friend Luke gave me some crap about me, my initial Franz rating, but like, did we expect the shooting to get back to where it was? No. Like it was so bad the year before. I think we were all hopeful that it would, but I don't think anybody went into the season like expecting Franz to be a 36% 3-point shooter. I think we kind of all said that, like, if that were to be the case, the Magic could be like a top 2 seed, 2-3 seed in the East. I mean, that was still possible if everyone would have been healthy, but probably not for the reasons that we thought it would have been possible. So yeah, I'm still kind of firm on that. But no, not really anything to change my mind about. Just wanted to check if you did. So let's go ahead and jump into the centers here. Let's go ahead and start with Wendell Carter Jr. So taking a look at his stats on the season. So he played in 68 games, so missed 24 games. It's kind of right around, what we're used to and kind of what we, expect from Wendell on that side. And in 25.9 minutes, he averaged 9.1 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, 2 assists, just under a steal, just over a half block. He shot 46% from the floor and 23% from behind the arc. And then in the playoffs, Wendell played 5 games, averaged 32.4 minutes, averaged 10.2 points, shot 52.5% from the floor, 27.3% from behind the arc, added 10.8 rebounds, 1.2 assists, and just under a half steal and a half block. Kev, what kind of were your expectations for Wendell going into the season, and what grade would you give him in terms of how he met or matched or exceeded or fell short of those expectations?
Yeah, I first off just kind of want to push back a little bit with one thing that you said. You said, played 68 games, and that's about what we've come to expect with him. This was Wendell's career high for games played. He played more games this season than he's ever played before. So I'll give him credit for that. The previous 2 seasons.
You're right. My math was off. My brain said 24, but that's missing 14 games. It's like, 20 to 24 games. I'm not good at math. How many times do we have to establish that? It seems like that limit does not exist.
Well,
you're correct. My math was off.
I don't mean to be like poking at you, but I just want to clarify.
Hand up accountability. My bad.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm serious. That's bad math. But so sure, the health was better than we expected. I'm terrible at math.
No.
We need to put something up in the corner of each episode. It's like, this guy's math stinks.
Oh my God.
That way, anytime there's any type of numerical discrepancy and it's like, wow, that sounds kind of weird or that's wrong, it's probably just an issue with my mental math. But
no. It's okay.
Yes, please continue.
Well, I was just going to say, because the last couple of seasons before that was 55 and 57 games played. And so, first you got to start with that. That's a positive. Wendell's struggled to be healthy all season since we've acquired him. Looking back, it was the COVID year that was different, obviously, but 62, which is close to this year, and then 57, 55. So you got to give him credit, missing 14 games, right? 14, like you said. So that's big. Everything else, I feel like we always start with the shooting percentages, but you kind of have to. 23% from 3 this year. That's not great, especially the year before he was 37% last year from 3. That's a 14-point drop. That's crazy to me. But again, just like so many other guys. First season of his career not averaging double-digit points. I think that's noteworthy. It was close, 9.1 points, but just rewind 2 seasons ago, he was averaging 15. The minutes dropped off a little bit from 2 years ago, but not from last year. That season where he averaged 15 points, he was averaging 29 minutes per game. This season, 25. So only 4 minutes less. I'm saying all these things to say these aren't good trends, when you think back, like I said, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, his best 2 seasons in Orlando to now, not great. The question might be, how much of that is Wendell regressing versus how much of that is Paolo and Franz's offensive games impacting what Wendell used to be able to do? I don't know. I think it's something, but I think that's worth noting. Shot free throws well. I'm trying to find some of the silver linings. Rebounded better than last year, so you give him credit for that. But all in all, it wasn't my favorite Wendell season, I think is what it comes down to for me. Last season, outside of the 3-point shooting, was a down year, like we said, from 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I guess it was now. So I was hoping to see an uptick in some of these numbers, and to not get that, I'm probably going to have to go with something like a C-, I'll say. Was not quite to the expectations that I had going into the season. What about you?
Yeah, which is so funny because when we were prepping for this, the grade that I gave him really reflects his increased health. So then to have the brain fart that I had a moment ago is a little bit embarrassing, but I'll wear that like a man. I gave him a C plus because of the increase in health. Everything else, like his play, just it's not what we need. And there's been this question now the last couple of seasons of kind of the fan base like playing this game of tug of war of who the starting center on this team should be. And I think you and I both agree that at this point it's clearly Wendell. But the issue is that the things that he doesn't do well, Goga does do well in a lot of aspects. And just Wendell as a starting center, when it comes to even like his best nights at times, can still have you feeling like there are things that are still to be desired. Like if he, scores the ball relatively well and rebounds the ball well, it's like, okay, but he's still not really shooting the ball the way that we need him to. Or, if he does have a good shooting night and the defense is really good, it's like, well, the rebound wasn't really there tonight. Like the biggest issue with Wendell is he is capable of having good games, like what we would consider good Wendell games, but you just don't get them consistently enough. So while a lot of people would agree that Wendell is the better player and should be starting, because of the things that he lacks, like the real like rim protection, a lot of times like the ability to be a real vertical threat, like playing with a ton of energy, like coming in and like really being able to flip a game in the way that Goga can do at times. Those are the things that people point to and say like, hey, well, why can't like if you just look at their like plus minus like for the season, Wendell was a negative 0.2 and Goga's a positive 1.1. So like their net ratings kind of reflect some of the things that people talk about. Individual plus minus, I don't always feel like is the best indicator, but over the course of a season, I guess you can paint a bit of a picture from that. But overall, when it comes to Wendell, I ended up giving him a C plus.
Yeah,
because again, the added health and numbers down a little bit from last year, but I just didn't really expect a ton out of him going into this season.
Yeah, something just as you were talking, kind of digging a little bit deeper. We said he played 68 games, which is great, obviously. Of those 68 games, he scored in double digits, only 30 of them. So less than half, he scored in double figures. Only 18 of those did he have double-digit rebounds. So 18 out of 68. That means 50 times a season he did not get double-digit rebounds. Combine both of those points, rebounds, only 10 double-doubles on the season for your starting center. 10 double-doubles in 68 games.
For a guy who isn't really a vertical threat, isn't really a rim protector.
And wasn't a shooting threat this year.
Yeah, so it's like, we need you out there to give us 10 to 12 points, and we need those 10 rebounds a game. Like, you just kind of have to have that. And although, like, you look at Goga's numbers, his rebounding numbers aren't any better. Like, we'll talk about Goga, but 6.6. It does feel like whenever you talk about Wendell, Goga gets brought up, and this is kind of why. But like when you just watch the games and you watch it an entire season, it becomes pretty obvious like who should still be starting, and I do still think it's Wendell.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Is it does feel like even though we just went on the list of ways we think Wendell kind of came up short this year, he offers. I don't want to say he offers more than what the other guys do, but like it makes more sense, right? Like we'll talk about the other guys in a little bit, but if anything, and I know we will talk about this later, but like if anything, it's just another indicator of some of the holes in this roster, and center feels right now like it's a pretty big one.
Yeah, like Wendell going into the last 26 games of the season, he's like, these are the most important 26 games of my career, right? And like I guess I can go with the date ranges and pull this up in a minute to give us sort of, confirmation or maybe disagree with the way that we're feeling. But if I asked you like, hey, like it did feel like Wendell played really well the last 15 games of the year, would you agree with that sentiment? Do you share that at all, or perhaps not?
Yeah, I thought he, just off the top of my head, I thought I remember him playing some of his best games down the stretch.
So if I were to ask you,
but yeah,
what would you guess his averages were the last 15 games of the season, just purely based off the way that we felt about the way that he ended the year?
12-9.
No.
9-7.
So let's go over the course of the regular season, right? Again, 9.1 points, 7.2 rebounds, shot 46% from the floor, 23% from deep. Okay? The last 15 games, 9.8 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, 47% from the floor, 30% from behind the arc. So points a little bit better, rebounds worse, field goal percentage was a little bit better, 3-point percentage was a little bit better.
Yeah.
So and that, I'm guessing, if we pull up the game log, is going to be like he probably had some 15 and 12 games in there, and then had some like 8 and 5 games in there.
Yeah. He's got a 16 and 14 game, a 16 and 12 game, a 5 and 11 game. I mean, he did have his almost season high 17 points in the game, the first game against Atlanta in that stretch, the one that sealed the what do we have? The 7 seed. I've already forgotten about this season. Yeah, he had 17 and 9 in that game. So that was a big one. But yeah, a lot of duds in there as well, though.
Got one more for you. I did pull up, in fact, the last 26 games of his season where the Magic went 9-5. 9.8 points, 6.6 rebounds, 47% from the floor, 30% from behind the arc. With he did average a block a game during that period. Defensively, like he's fine. Would I maybe prefer somebody that is a bit more of a rim protector and in that regard? Yes, but like our issue is not with Wendell, like on the defensive end of the floor. Like the versatility that he brings, the toughness that he brings, all that is great.
Yep.
For me, it's really boils down to like the rebounding and the ability to put the ball in the basket consistently.
Yeah.
So even though we felt like, Wendell ended the year like really well, it was pretty much on par with the way that he performed across the rest of the season. And when we look at those numbers, you're like, that's kind of underwhelming.
Right. Yeah, but I think maybe more so he had a few of those good games in that stretch that kind of helped fix some of those feelings or those thoughts, I guess, about those games. Did have a lot of duds in there, but had a few noteworthy games. And again, especially that Atlanta game, that was at the time the biggest game of the season, and he balled out, a near double-double with 17 points, and yeah, was big time in that game.
We take a quick moment to interrupt this episode to tell you about our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken. We talk about Jam each and every episode. They're bringing Jam's culture and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. Jam Hot Chicken is a Nashville and LA inspired hot chicken shack, locally owned and operated by diehard Magic fans over there in Winter Park, located 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. Be sure to follow at Jam Hot Chicken on all social media and check them out at jamhotchickenfl.com to access their menu, online ordering, and all things Jam. Right now, they have brought back their 6th man. Their cool chicken ranch wrap is back, better than ever, all summer long. Kevin and I have not had the opportunity to try that just yet, but it looks incredible. And if it's like literally everything else at Jam, we know it's going to be incredible. So go on over there, try that out. Tell them that your friends over at the 6-Man Show sent them. And they're now available on Uber Eats as well. So if you want to order that, you're local to the Winter Park area, don't want to leave the house, download the Uber Eats app, get Jam Hot Chicken downloaded directly to your door. Once again, a big shout out to our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken.
Yeah, you and I might have to give that a try here real soon. That sounds nice. Love the name as well. That's pretty cool. Speaking of names, Jonathan, we have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 8 patrons to recognize on this episode. First, we have 2 brand new patrons. We have Matthew Garfinkel and West Virginia Magic Fanatic. Big shout out to both of you. Thanks for joining our Patreon community. Speaking of which, before I get to the rest of the patrons, I wonder how many states are represented when it comes to people who watch or listen to our show. Please let us know in the comments, or maybe add us on Twitter if you're listening on podcast platforms. Let us know what state you're listening from, especially if you're from a random one. Like, no offense, but I didn't know we had anyone listening to us in West Virginia. So I'm curious, is there a Wyoming out there? Is there a Hawaii? Is there a New Hampshire? I don't know. Let us know. I'm definitely curious if we can hit all 50 states. Okay. other
I
patrons
did
we
want
need
to
to
say
mention.
real quick,
Yeah,
shout out
of
to
course.
Matthew Garfinkel. Met him a couple months ago. Really awesome dude. Appreciate the
Oh, yeah.
support for sure. Just want to give him a quick shout out there.
Yeah, at a golf thing, right? That's where you
Yeah.
met him. I'm pretty sure. Nice. Okay, other patrons. The next one is a pronunciation fix. On our last episode, we recognized him, botched the name. Here's his name, Kevin Anton. That's how you say it. We said, I think, Kevin Anton, so that's our bad. Kevin Anton. And then we also always recognize 5 of our Hall of Fame and Elite tier patrons. This episode is Gabe Gaines, David T., Sir Sundown, Santi Leon, and Only Franz. If you've been hearing all these random names, you're like, what in the world is going on? These are some of our patrons, which you can find at patreon.com/the6man show as a way to financially support the show here. So if you love our content, if you love what we do, if you love the fact that we're trying to raise and elevate the Orlando Magic fan experience, then you could also support us in that way. Go to patreon.com/the6man show, where you can find several different tiers that you can choose from, including some benefits like getting into our Discord, where you can talk about the Orlando Magic all the time with fellow Magic maniacs, our monthly Zoom calls, and so much more. Again, check us out, patreon.com/the6man show, and pick the tier that's right for you. And now let's get back to the episode. I have one other thing with Wendell, and this is not something we'll find in the stat sheet. And it's not even really like a thing probably a lot of people even recognize or agree with. It's just a Kevin complaint. Okay. Wendell had a couple times this season where he said some things pregame and they didn't go well. He had a couple of times this season where
last couple of seasons this has happened.
Where I've said, like, if Wendell says something pregame to the effect of either this is a must-win game, or I can't even think of the other thing he said. One of them was
a get back.
Yeah, yes, he talked about a get back game, must-win game, stuff like that. We lose 100% of the time. Like every time he says something like that pregame, it's like, well, we're a toast. So Wendell, if you're listening, maybe next season, no like guarantees or calling games out, or let's just go play the game. And I know you're not meaning to, but you've been jinxing us, bro. And let's see if we can clean that up.
And he did allude to like playing like through injury a lot of the year, which like is 100% totally commendable, and respect him for being out there. But that is, I'm glad that those things weren't able to keep him off the floor like they have been in previous years.
Sure.
But that still kind of makes me feel the same way, that it's like, okay, well, whether it's these injuries are keeping you off the floor or they're keeping you from being able to perform the way that we need you to, and the way that, like, the level of production that you need out of a starting center, we're just not really getting that. And it's like the things that he does well, they don't really optimize Paolo and Franz in the way that I feel like they could. And there were stretches of the season, like especially early on, where he did look a lot better physically, like looked rejuvenated, but then of course missed time again. That's where Goga came back in, played really well in that stretch in November and December, just like he did last year, which the last 2 years, those pockets, like the first third of the season where Goga has been playing and starting and the team has been performing well, that's where all of these debates around these two guys have really stemmed from. But like we just keep coming back to, the health thing didn't keep you off the floor this year, but it definitely seems like it might have stopped you from performing the way that we need you to. And when we are done talking about the centers, I think we're going to have more of a like high level conversation around this part of the rotation and how we feel about it in general. And is it something that needs to be upgraded? But those are just things that will be ringing in my mind as we have that bigger conversation. And I think should be at the forefront of the front office's mind when they're evaluating this position group, especially. So I'm right. Like C plus, I'm not even mad at your C minus, like just was what he was and feels like kind of is what he is at this point. I know we've already talked about this player a decent amount because of, you can't really have the Wendell conversation without talking about Goga, but let's talk about Goga. He played in 70 games this year, averaged 20.4 minutes per game, 7.2 points, 6.6 rebound, 2 assists, a turnover, 0.7 steals, almost a block and a half per game. He shot 61% from the floor and 10% from behind the arc and 63% from the free throw line. not a shooter whatsoever, and then just didn't really get much of an opportunity in the playoffs, I think for good reason. But 3 games, 3.8 minutes, 0.7 points, 1 rebound, 0.3 assists, 0.3 blocks, like shot 100% from the floor in the playoffs. I think like scored 1 point, I think, in the playoffs, something like that, like 1 or 2 points in the playoffs. But Goga, again, was a massive help in that stretch when Wendell was out. Magic were playing very well. But yeah, just when he's starting and it seems like the job is his, he plays really well. Ton of energy, both ends of the floor, like moving the ball really well, makes good cuts, offensive rebounds, open for lobs, getting blocks on the other end, big rebounds, playing good defense, all that kind of stuff. It seems that the moment the job isn't just handed to him and he seems to has to deal with that adversity of like, am I going to win the job and keep it? Is it not mine? I don't know if it's a confidence thing or whatever. But as soon as Wendell came back, Goga's impact seems to drop. And he had same thing with Wendell, has really good games, has games where he plays, 20 minutes and is completely invisible in those games. But other times looks completely lost on both ends of the floor. Doesn't always have that energy that you look for with Goga. And if you look lost on both ends and you're not bringing that energy, his energy level and his production are like directly correlated. Like he's just not producing if he's not playing like his hair is on fire. Where Wendell, even if Wendell isn't lighting it up on either end, more often than not, he's in the right spots. There are some things with Wendell that are questionable, like the hands, for example, and some of the decision making, especially offensively. But for the most part, what you're gonna get from Wendell. It might be inconsistent, which I think is what is keeping Wendell from being like one of the better starting centers in the league. But with Goga, I think it's more extreme than with Wendell, like the inconsistencies. What did I give Goga here? I gave Goga a C, just like I did with Wendell, just because kind of what was exactly what we expected. We knew that after last year and what we saw when he was kind of pushed into the starting lineup, that he does have the opportunity to play really well in those groups. So I wasn't really surprised by that. I was definitely relieved that, like, okay, he's doing this again. But at the end of the season, I pretty much feel exactly the same way about Goga now that I did 365 days ago. So he's just solid C, right in the middle, met expectations for me.
Yeah, before we talk about Goga, I just have to go back. One thing with Wendell, just because I don't want to get roasted for missing this. I forgot to mention playoff numbers. Wendell did average a double-double in the series against Boston. So I got to give him credit for that. 10 and 10 for him. There you go. Can't forget that. Back to Goga. Yeah, my thing with Goga is like I feel like he's the most predictable player maybe on this roster. Like for the most part, not always, but for the most part, you know exactly what Goga is going to give you. Maybe not statistically, but at least style of play. You know exactly what he's going to give you. And Goga knows exactly what he's supposed to do, right? Like Goga knows he's a shot blocker. Great. Goga knows to go get rebounds. Great. And Goga knows to, finish at the rim when given opportunities, whether it's being set up by teammates or off of offensive rebounds or whatever. And so, I can definitely obviously appreciate that from Goga. And, but yeah, coming into this season, I think from 2023-24, like you mentioned, that stretch where he started kind of inflated maybe some fans' opinions of him, and rightfully so, right? He obviously raised his stock during that stretch, but some fans thought he was the answer as a starter. If you remember at the end of the season, again, 2024 season, he was starting for a few games at the end of the season, and that did not the end of the season, but in the last quarter of the season, maybe he started some games and didn't play as well as he did back in November. And so that was kind of the realization, like, okay, maybe not. So coming into this season, I too didn't have super high expectations for Goga. I think Goga is a very solid player. Again, I think he knows his role, and I think his role is needed for most NBA teams, but he's not somebody who had super high expectations for this season. And so, yeah, I also had the exact same grade that you had for Goga at C. He just kind of met my expectations, did what he does. And yeah, not a whole lot above or below that.
And we'll save, again, like the big picture stuff, I think, for the end of the conversation. So the next big, unless you have something else on Goga or Dell before we move on.
I'll just add, like, Goga, I think, is just a terrific locker room presence. So give him credit for that. Like, everybody loves Goga. Such a friendly guy. Very supportive team player. Because, it's tough. It's got to be tough to go back and forth from starting and not playing, period. Now, this season was a little bit different. He played, like you said, 70 games, which was a career high for him. But thinking back to 23-24, it was literally, those were the two options for Goga. He either started or didn't play, pretty much. And so I always will give him credit, always admire, his mentality, just being ready and not complaining or griping or whatever whenever he wasn't getting, minutes. And so I'll always give him credit for that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Next, we'll move on to Moe Wagner. So this year, in 28 games off the bench, he was averaging 18.8 minutes, 12.9 points, 4.9 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 0.8 steals, just under a half block per game, was shooting 56% from the floor and 36% from behind the arc, which for Moe Wagner would have been really his best overall three-point shooting season of his career, and was really playing incredibly well, was in the sixth man of the year conversation before the ACL tear, and was just awesome off the bench. Comparing like to last year, he was averaging 2 more points per game, over a half rebound more per game. The efficiency wasn't quite the same, but when you're taking more shots and you're still scoring on really good volume and efficiency, 56% from the floor, 36% from behind the arc, effective field goal percentage of 61 still. Like, even though the efficiency was down a little bit, the volume was up a good bit for Moe, and it felt like he was taking kind of another step forward for this team. And then his season really just got cut short by the injury. So for Moe, what did I give Moe? I gave Moe a B, like a solid B. Again, had he been healthy, maybe like in the B plus, like A minus range, but for knocking other guys for their availability or lack of availability, I do think we should factor in that, really, just to be fair. But I was almost thrilled with the way that Moe Wagner was playing on a nightly basis, just like super consistent. When we talk about like energy guys on this team, no one is more consistent bringing the energy than Moe Wagner, like Jalen Suggs included. I think they bring different levels of energy. Like Jalen Suggs is at a 10 and Moe Wagner's probably like at 8.5 or like a 9, somewhere in that range. But that you are going to get that from those guys in the same level of effort. They're going to do the same things night in and night out. And the fact that he was shooting the ball a little bit better from deep this year, and was just awesome. Like it feels like in those second units, like he's borderline unstoppable against these other, backup bigs in the league. And just sucks that his season was cut short. And obviously now he's been recovering the last, 5-6 months or so. And I'm just hoping that he's going to be back and ready to go and looks at least mostly the same going into this next season. What did you think of Moe?
Here's what I thought of Moe. 30 games, so not a huge sample size, but not microscopic. In 2024-25, he was averaging points, career high, blocks, career high, steals, career high, assists, 1/10 of an assist away from being career high, rebounds per game, career high, 3-point percentage, career high. He was on track to have a career year, right? Mo's been good here. Not saying like Moe was terrible before this, and this was his breakout year. Obviously, he was great. He was doing all the things, but this year was a different level that we saw through 30 games. And when I say career highs, it's not like they were astronomical jumps in a lot of those categories. But hey, an improvement is an improvement, especially considering when you compare to the rest of the roster. A lot of guys did not improve statistically this season. So to that end, like seeing, wow, he was having a career year and it got cut short by, 20, 30, 40, 50 games, however many he would have potentially played, kind of stings, right? So on the one hand, with the opportunities that he had I feel like I got to give him a lot of credit for what he was doing. Because like you said, it's one thing to be statistically better, but it's another thing to just elevate the whole team. And last season it felt like it. This season it felt like it. When Moe Wagner's on the floor, you have a chance to make some moves and go on runs and those kinds of things. But like you said, missed 52 games this season because of that knee injury. And so does it have to be a factor? Probably, yeah. Because prior to last season, he played 80 games last year. Prior to that, he was considered injury prone, right? 57 games the year before that, 63 the year before that. COVID stuff before that. And then back 2018-19 played 43 games before COVID. So injuries have been a factor for some of his career. I should also clarify the 43 games that he played with LA wasn't all injury. He also just didn't play sometimes. But so injuries were a factor before last season, playing 80 games. This season, the 30. I really want to. I don't want to knock him too much for that knee injury. It's not his freaking fault. When he was out there, he was really, really good. So I'm just going to give him credit for what I saw, and I'll say B+. Try not to dock him too much for the injury. But yeah, he was really, really good. And like you said, I just hope he's ready to go, by October. Let's see. If he had it in December, they say it's usually at least, 9 months for that injury. So January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. September, in theory, is 9 months. So we'll see if he's ready to go by training camp. That might be a stretch, maybe not. But hopefully we'll get an update on both him, like you mentioned this, a couple episodes, on him and Jalen this summer. I would love to get an update instead of just waiting till media day. I'm sure we'll get something, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think we talked about this. I don't know if it was at the end of the regular season or after the interviews, but do we expect this team to change their approach when it comes to injury rehabs moving forward? Where in past years, maybe they were so patient with guys because it was, we're fine to lose another 4 or 5 games, down the final stretch of the season rather than bring a guy back too early. And maybe there was some of that went into their approach. And now that the team is shifting more into the win now, not that they're going to rush guys back, but are they going to be less willing to give them that kind of extra time? Hey, you're 100%. Let's wait until you're 110% to bring you back. Right. Or are they going to be bringing back guys, again, not early, but maybe just sooner than they would have in recent years? So I'm hoping that's kind of the case, because it does seem like this ultra conservative approach, if I'm being blunt, hasn't totally paid off. Right? Who knows how different things would have been if guys would have come back a little bit earlier. Maybe they just really have been bringing these guys back, and we just have the slowest healers in the league the last few years. Who really knows? I would expect, this is purely speculation, but I would hope that we see Moe again in 2025. Right? He's back before the end of the year. I think that's reasonable to expect that. That would put it at the very most at a year. I believe he got hurt right before the end of the year.
The date in my head is December 15th, but I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Yeah, I can pull up. Fox Sports says 12/21. So again, Fox Sports may not be accurate. They've been wrong about things in the past for sure.
Yeah, I remember because we had the what was the first game after it? Was it Miami or Boston or one of those crazy comebacks? Was right after the Moe injury. So yeah, but that makes sense. It was around Christmas time.
Yeah, was maybe it was the Brooklyn game. It was definitely somewhere. I mean, we could pull it up and it would take 2 seconds for us.
The Boston game was the first game back. Yeah.
Perfect. So what game was he hurt in?
That was the Miami. That's right. The Miami comeback game. Yeah.
Crazy.
That was
wild.
The same game. Yeah, I remember
Good
now.
Times,
that was a roller coaster.
Times.
Yeah.
Really tough.
That was a crazy game. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much in agreement on a lot of this here. Now, I kind of want to talk more about just the big picture, because for me, right after the shooting and the playmaking hole that's on this team, for me, the next biggest thing is a legitimate starting center. I think if this team is going to be competitive, I just don't see that starting center on the roster right now, considering Wendell, Goga, Moe Wagner. the other thing is, like, you start looking around the league for like players that, you know, would kind of fit the mold of what we're looking for. Like, if you're looking for like a rim protector that shoots threes, there's just not a lot of guys out there. Like, they really aren't. And the guys that are there, they're expensive, and you're probably not making moves to go and get those guys. And then even if you're like, well, I just want a guy that averages a double-double. Again, it is not really a long list. You kind of have to like give and take a little bit. I do think we don't really need a guy that's going to score a ton if we're bringing in another scorer. And when we're talking about a guy with Wendell who's averaging, you know, 9 points a game or whatever, if you're able to bring in a guy who's going to get you, you know, 16 a game, like relatively, consistently, I'm okay if we bring in a guy who's averaging 6 or 7 points per game as a starting center, if he's giving you like other elite type of skills. If we're bringing in a guy who's a rim protector and is a rebounder, I'm kind of okay with that. And also just having that vertical threat for Paolo and Franz and these other guards in the pick and roll game. That's kind of what I'm looking for. But again, like, you start looking at the market, if we're looking like at a stretch big, a good option could be Brook Lopez, who, regardless of what you think about, you know, his age and things of that nature, still a reliable 3-point shooter. And I believe I looked and he's averaging close to almost 2 blocks a game still. The other hand is like, that dude is going to be 38 years old, and at some point the wheels are going to fall off of that. So are you willing to risk that on a 38-year-old aging Brook Lopez if, you know, Milwaukee's trying to make some deals this summer? I don't really know. There are some other names that I have in mind, but I guess before we get into that, Kevin, we just kind of like to get your opinion on like this position group for this roster right now, and whether or not you think an upgrade is possible, or do we even need an upgrade?
Yeah. I think we need an upgrade. I think we saw we got a taste of what Wendell could be seasons ago, right? But so much time has passed since then that,
and when you say seasons, we mean like 3 seasons ago.
Right. At least 3 and 4 seasons ago, kind of like we talked about. It's like, at what point do you let go of that, right? Like, I think that's what a lot of Magic fans have held on to for so long, is this idea that, oh, we saw what Wendell could be. You know, he just needs to be healthy. He just needs to be this or that, and then he'll be a great addition to, you know, this team. And I mean, last season was pretty tough. You know, like you said, the hard part is, if, let's say, he has statistically the exact same season with everything except he shoots better from 3. Like, if he's back to where he was the season before when it comes to 3, are we even having this conversation? If Wendell is shooting the ball well, like, what did I say he was in 23-24? He was 37%. If he shot 37% from 3 this season, are we even having this conversation?
I think you could apply that rule to almost everyone on the team.
Sure, you can. But what I'm saying is, like, all the other holes that we've pointed out in Wendell's game, are they all forgiven if he shoots 37% from 3 this year? Probably. Like, probably if he can stretch the floor and shoot 37% from 3, I don't know that we're having this conversation in the same way that we are right now, right? I think most Magic fans would say, yeah, we could probably upgrade the position, but it's not a priority. Unfortunately for him, that's not what happened. And so I'm with you. I think it is pretty high up on the priority list. What I want to ask you, though, if you could pick any big man in the league, like, and I'm not saying like Wemby, you know, like a non-super superstar, you know, if you could pick any big man across the entire NBA, what, like, player type, archetype, is there a specific player? What one would you be eyeing to add to the Magic?
Brace yourselves. Some
Did you
people
like
are
my
going to
stall
like this
game
answer.
there? Did you like my stalling there?
Well, people on YouTube, they're and everyone's about to understand here in just a second.
I know you went to go do something, and I'm very excited to see what it is.
There are some people, just brace yourself. Some of you are going to be happy about this. Some people are like, oh my gosh, here we freaking go again. Nikola freaking Vucevic, baby. Look, $20 million a year, which is, if my calculations are correct, what Wendell is going to be due. I don't know if it's this coming season, but definitely the following season after that. And if we're talking about like a stopgap center, like I've been running like the numbers and looking at, guys that may or may not be available. There's just really not a lot of guys out there, unless you're going to talk yourself into one of Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively becoming available in Dallas. I don't see it happening. Anthony Davis, how many times does he have to say he does not want to be a starting center? So you're going to have Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively. You're going to bring the other guy in off the bench right now because defense wins championships per Nico Harris. I don't think they're going to make a move like that. Or like if you think that like a guy like Khalil Ware, Miami, why would Miami ever trade a guy like that to the Magic? I don't know. I think the jury is still kind of out on him. People were super high on him at the beginning of the season. Then it kind of tailed off as the year went on. Or you just really believe in a guy in a draft. Like if you believe there's a Derek Lively in this draft, go and get him. I'm totally 100% on board with that. I just think that Nikola Vucevic, like if the Bulls are looking to move off of that, because actually he's going to be an expiring deal coming up here pretty shortly. So if the Bulls are looking to move on from that, and maybe you've got to add a little sweetener and something in the mix to make a Kobe White trade happen, and you're bringing back Nikola Vucevic in that deal, I am all on board. We're talking about a guy in Nikola Vucevic here who last year averaged 18.5 points, still shot 53% from the floor, shot 40% from behind the arc on 4.4 attempts, 10.1 rebounds per game. He's going to be 35 years old. Even when Vooch was here in Orlando, we still said, hey, that guy doesn't really rely on athleticism. His game is going to age with time. I'm not saying it's a perfect fit, but I think he would still be the best player on the roster. Well, not best player. Holy crap. Best center on the roster right now if you were to just throw him onto the Magic.
Maybe I wasn't super clear with my question, and maybe this is the answer to my question still. I was kind of going like, let's say there's no limits is strong, but like doesn't necessarily have to be a reasonable response.
Let's just go get Victor Wembanyama. Kevin, okay, is that what you want me to say?
No, but I have a player in mind. There is a player in this league that I think would be the perfect fit alongside Paolo and Franz. Do I think we'll get him? No. Do I actually really want him? No. Maybe. I don't know. I think Kristaps Porzingis would be the perfect fit.
But all this like weird illness stuff that is going on now with him.
That's why I said I don't know that I want him.
Yeah.
Because he can't stay on the floor. But I'm saying that type of player, which there's a reason he's called the unicorn, because there's not a lot of them. But if you think about the things the Magic need, rim protection, a guy that can space the floor, get you a few rebounds. Sure. I mean, he's the guy to me. Like, again, do you risk it for the game's potential, like the potential games played? Probably not. And he's going to be owed $30 million this year, and he's 29 and all these things. But again, I was more thinking like player type. Like the idea of Kristaps Porzingis next to Paolo Banchero would be insane to me. But okay, for the Vooch thing, I don't know. He has one more year left on his deal, $20 million.
Yeah, and then he would absolutely take a discount to re-sign and end his career here.
Well, that's the thing. He would take a discount to re-sign here anyway without having to trade any assets to Chicago. So it's
true, but then you have to wait a year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're basically deciding, do you want to wait a year or not?
This team is... Jeff Weltman, you are not allowed to wait a year. Because if he does, he may not have a job.
Well, yeah, wait a year in general. But if Vooch the thing you want to decide right now, whether you're going to do it or wait a year, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I love Vooch. That feels a year early to me.
Feels a year early for a guy that's 34 years old, though. I don't know. I don't know that there is too early when you start talking about a guy that's aging. It's
about the assets that you'd have to give up to make a deal happen when you could get him for money instead of assets in a year.
We won't have the cap space to sign. I mean, yeah, you're most likely just not going to have cap space to sign him anyways.
Okay, but
like, is he going to take a vet minimum to play here? I don't think that's the case. when we start taking a look at like the 2026 like salary cap year, like, yeah, Wendell's still a year off. Like, okay, we're throwing a theoretical out there, like Wendell and Goga for Vooch.
Trading Wendell for Vooch would be the wildest thing I've ever heard.
It would be. Yeah, it's not happening most likely.
Well, no, I'm just saying that the concept of it, like Vooch gets traded for the pick, for Wendell and picks, and then Wendell goes back for Vooch. That'd be wild.
Look, we're not going to say anything out loud. We're going to let people draw their own conclusions here. I'm going to send this to you right now, this link. I think you should be able to click that. When you go to 2025, 2026, and you just sort by like the cap numbers there, you're telling me there's not a few guys on there that you wouldn't throw together in a trade for Nikola Vucevic? If it was like, it's the $20 million and it's like, hey, like if you guys are getting Kobe White, we need you to take Vooch back as well.
Oh, well, that's different. If we're getting Kobe White and
Well,
Vooch,
no, I'm not saying they're not mutually exclusive, but I do think that could potentially sweeten the deal. But again, he's in expiring, so that just might not apply to them anyways.
People keep talking about the Bulls trading Kobe. I don't think the Bulls are trading Kobe White. That's a totally separate conversation. I think he's borderline untouchable.
But
that's
the
what
thing
I think for
with
them.
me though, and Chicago's never really done this, is like you got to pick a direction at some point. And they tried to go all in with the Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Vooch team, and it didn't work out. Are you just going to continue to like? You're going to put Kobe White out there and let him average 22 points a game and you're going to win 39 games again, 38 games? Like, are they going to continue to do that? Or are they going to say like, hey, like, let's, bring some stuff in and just kind of tank and build around like, Modest Buzelis or do they like, is Kobe White young enough to be considered part of like a young core? I don't think he is at this point.
He's 24. I mean,
25 years old. Like,
24. Yeah. Or what is he? Is he 25 now?
Wikipedia says 25.
Yeah, he is 20. He turned 25 on February 16th. So I don't know. I think he's great. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to. I'm not saying they should build around him, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
If you're asking me completely healthy, Kristaps Porzingis or Vooch, it's not close. It's Kristaps Porzingis, but he's got the health concerns and there's a lot more money and things like that come along with that, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, this would take a lot, but like money wise, they're not going to do Vooch and Kobe White. But if they did, Vooch and Kobe White is 34 million pretty much, I think it is. So that's like KCP and Cole, and you just give them all the picks. Like,
no, all the picks. We're talking about Kobe White.
I'm not saying.
No offense. Crazy. I would love Kobe White here, but not all the picks.
Not
like
all of
them.
2
firsts, maybe.
They're not taking KCP and Cole in 2 firsts for Kobe White. KCP
and
Cole,
right about that.
Their worth couldn't be lower right now. Their value could not be lower right now.
Yeah, you're right about that.
So like you're gonna have if you're doing if
3
you're doing
firsts.
something like that.
Okay, do both this year's firsts count towards the 3 firsts?
Of course, yeah.
Like both of those firsts and next year's first.
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe they want to push that out a little bit because maybe they're maybe we might. Be
I don't think the Bulls even consider it. By the way, I don't think they're even
probably
close.
Not. Yeah, you're probably right.
But yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, when you start looking at it, it's like, does a Kobe White deal happen without including like Anthony Black?
Right, correct.
Or like, multiple rotation guys.
Yeah.
Probably
not.
Probably not. Yeah. I mean, dude, we've been saying this. We don't envy Jeff Weltman whatsoever, but like people are going to scoff at the Vooch thing. But if it wasn't for his history here and he was just another player who's done what he's done in his career, I think people would feel much differently about that. If there was not the history of Vooch being here and being on such bad teams, and the guy was a 2-time All-Star coming off of a 18 and almost 11 point or 18.11 rebound season, shooting 40% from behind the arc, people would feel much differently about a deal bringing that guy in.
Maybe the 34 years old thing, I think, will scare a lot of people off. But I mean, you're right. Well, he shoots the ball, he rebounds. Yeah.
If you were told that we bring in Brooke Lopez this offseason, how would you feel about that? Be totally against it?
I'm not a big Brooke Lopez guy. He's like 1,000,000 years old, but
he is 1,000,000 years old, but he played 80 games this year. Shot 50% from the floor, 37% from behind the arc, 1.9 blocks a game. The thing is, he can't rebound a lick.
That's true.
5 rebounds a game.
Yeah, but that's not nothing. You're right.
Just gives you a little bit of a different dynamic. Like gives you the stretch shooting, obviously, and gives you the rim protection.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I honestly, dude, I'm just so like fast forward to the draft, man. Get me to the draft. That's when all this stuff is going to go crazy. I still think the Magic are going to do something on or by draft day, and I'm here for it.
Would you consider like a Jonas Valanciunas 10.4 rebounds, or I'm sorry, 10.4 points, 7.7 rebounds per game this year, 81 games? Would you consider that an upgrade or like kind of like a lateral move? I see that as more like a lateral.
For sure, lateral. Because Valanciunas, I don't think, can defend on the perimeter like Wendell can either. You know? Like that's
if I were to tell you Walker Kessler is attainable.
I don't want to say he's one-dimensional, but
11 and 12 a game.
Yeah, but blocks though. Broken
2.4.
Yeah.
We'll be blocking them things.
Yeah, block and rebound and finish at the rim. But I mean, that's probably an upgrade.
I think the real answer is
and he's younger, by the way,
through the draft, or you find an analytical darling who's very undervalued, like an Isaiah Hartenstein.
Oh, like he was undervalued.
Yeah, like he was in LA before the Knicks got a hold of him.
I thought you were saying right now. I was like, bro, have you seen his contract?
No.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm talking about a guy like that you just kind of like, hey, you know what? That guy's not doing much there. Let's bring him in here. And then now he turns into a $30 million a year guy, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I think we start in a couple weeks with our draft preview stuff. That's definitely going to be one of the things we ask the experts. Like, hey, are there any big men that do X, Y, and Z in this draft that could be sleepers, as we look to upgrade this position? I think that'd be really important to hear that.
Most of the guys from like the top of the draft, obviously, Cooper Flagg's like pretty much like a 3-4 kind of guy. But most of them, are like the kid from Rutgers, I forget his name. That shows you how much attention we paid to college basketball this year. But like it's a lot of like offensive guys like towards the top. I don't know how
ton of guards and wings. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
with this group. But
listen, for anyone who's like knocking the Vooch idea, like I just want you to go down the list of centers and find a guy that matches your criteria, that meets what we need, and like actually is attainable. Like there just aren't that many guys out there. Like I would argue that right now, like center is one of the like thinnest positions in the league. Yeah. It feels like there's tons of good guards, tons of good forwards. It doesn't feel like there's that many good centers in the league right now.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm going down the rabbit hole of looking at guys in the draft, and there are some interesting ones. But yeah, I'll save it for the experts on that one for sure.
Yeah. All right, Kev. Anything else? Like we talked about, next is going to be the guards. We'll be going through that on Thursday's episode. Anything else about the centers, or what do you got? You got anything else for me?
The guards episode, that'll be must-see TV. That's for sure. That'll be electric.
Yeah.
No, I'm good, man. I'm out.
All right. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. That is going to do it for another episode here for Kevin Tucker. This has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!